Hello everyone, this is Sherry with Heart and Soulful, and welcome to Studio B, our very first recording here. I decided that it was time to try this out. I apologize in advance if there's some background noise. My next door neighbors are remodeling, so I don't know how it will work to try to record here during the day. So we'll see how it goes. This may or may not be the final video of this, but I'm trying. So I had promised a week or two ago, and they just keep flying by between all the back and forth and the fires. I mean, I can't escape the fires. We had to prepare to evacuate during the Tamarack fire and had just put everything back before we came back here to work on the house here. And now we are in a very close path of the Caldor fire. It's really close, but I have a feeling they are going to get it under control. We are under prepare to evacuate orders again, but we're not there. So fingers crossed, okay? So anyway, today I wanted to try to switch my focus and do a final flip through of the project that I had been working on for, gosh, the last months and months. So if you've been following along, thank you. If you're brand new, this will be a fun one to watch. If you are watching me for the very first time, you will not know that I have only been doing junk journaling or any of this kind of thing for just a little over a year now. So I think my anniversary of my channel was August 4th, which I missed because of all the chaos in my life. But I'm ready to finally do a flip through of this. So I've been working on something that was very new to me. I had never made an actual hardcover book before. So I decided to try to do that. It ended up so big that in the last video I showed that I had to make a new cover. So I decided, because I've had so much time between starting this till now, and I had to take a big long break, that I was going to go ahead and end this volume here, and then hopefully I can get back to it when things settle down a bit and work on volume 2, because I still had ideas for that. So I'm going to do a flip through of this one, and you can kind of see where we're ending up here. So I really love how the cover turned out. If you did watch the last video, it was kind of a short one, but I needed to make a larger cover to accommodate the signatures that I had finished. So I did it with the same process of the previous one. I used food containers, did 2 layers so that they would be nice and sturdy, and we'll open her up here. So I went ahead and put a closure on. As I had been working on this journal before, I had only made the cover. I hadn't decorated it at all, and I did not have a closure on it. So I've just used some of my the rusted fabric that I had done. This is just rusted cotton fabric, and I just tore a couple of strips for my closure. When I did this, and I don't have the pieces here because they're at the other studio, I went ahead and made, I didn't make the other cover because I'm not sure how thick the next volume will be, but I did go ahead and dye my scrim and do that part, and then cut all these other little embellishments so that my 2 volumes will have the same cover design. So if you watched this series from the beginning, and I will put a link down below, the very first thing I did was work on the cover. And so there is a video, it's the second video in this series, that shows how I did this part of the cover. So how I did this finish with the coffee staining and all of that. There were a couple of differences, and I think I may have pointed those out in the last video. One was that I had used some Distress Oxide sprays to color the scrim that I used. And if you've been watching me, scrim is a fabric that I've been using a lot, and it's kind of between a gauze fabric and like a cheesecloth. So it's got a tighter weave than like a cheesecloth and gauze, but it's not as heavy as like a cotton. It's probably made from cotton, but it's called Scrim, S-C-R-I-M. So I'll put a link to where you can maybe purchase them if you've never seen something like that. So that part, and I think in the last video I explained the differences that I did about this cover. After that, I went ahead and did some embellishment. There's just a couple of pieces of rusty screen that I had cut, and then they're just folded over and glued on with my, I believe I used just this art glitter glue for that. And then, I don't know if you can see if I take this off because it's not glued on. That's kind of just a little decorative element. It's just a little binder clip that I've rusted out also. And I had actually put a little eyelet through here, made a hole and put an eyelet. I just wanted some kind of details, different rusty parts and pieces on it. So that's kind of just a little decorative thing. So I did that on the front and the back with little holes, and that's holding my my little tie there. And then what I had here is, this is just an old, an antique, if I'm in the frame and not, it's just an antique trade coin. And I had done, during this series, I had rusted a bunch of fabric, and this is one of the things that I used. So I had that, and I just, to close it, it's not, you know, something that stays on. You can probably tie it on permanently if you want, but I just had run my little thing through the hole and then tied my knot in my bow. So that's just a little decorative thing. And then on the spine, I just used, this was new, a little, just a little brass label holder that would actually kind of go this direction. There's a slot here you can put the label in. But I went ahead and aged that, and then again put a piece of this rusty screen as a layer. And then the Bodie is actually, where it says Bodie in volume 1, and I've made the second one, is actually done on fabric. I used some of my rusted fabric and just put a little swatch on, taped it onto a piece of paper and printed it right onto my fabric, just so that I would have some more textures. So that's my cover, and I just love how it turned out. So this was my first attempt at, you know, sewing actual signatures in, and you can see that they're not evenly spaced. And the reason is because this signature was quite a bit larger than these other two. So I went ahead and kind of just saw how they wanted to fit in here, and then just kind of made marks. This one is halfway between these two, but you can see these two are offset from the first one. I just wanted to give them a little bit more room in case more goes in here, you know, as it's being used. So that's where I started. Now, if you haven't watched from the beginning, I had decided after my last series, which was very brightly colored, kind of a bohemian vibe kind of thing, I decided I wanted to kind of switch it up and do something really grungy and vintage. You know, there's all kinds of grunge. It can be, you know, very colorful too. But because I had been very colorful in the last one, I decided I wanted to just be very kind of muted, not a lot of color, just a lot of distress. And when I was thinking about that, I thought of a ghost town that I had visited a few years ago, and I had taken a ton of pictures because I just always have loved grungy, you know, peeling wallpaper and water stains and rusted things and falling apart things. And so I had taken lots of pictures just because I wanted to. And so I used those for this journal as kind of my jumping off point. And it was a lot of fun because it kind of gave me a theme then to work from. So I decided, because Bodie is an old ghost town and it's been left the way that it was left, you can just look through windows, but there's things inside the buildings. So I decided I really wanted to have that kind of looking through windows, looking through doorways, looking from one room through a doorway to the next room, and so on. So that was kind of, I wanted that feel to happen in here in some way. And so what I did was I used those pictures that I took, which were then modern, and I ran them through an app on my phone that turned it into kind of a vintage looking photo. And then I printed them for the most part on vellum. And that way I had that kind of see-through feel of the ghost town. Then I also decided to do each signature as kind of a building in the town. So the first one ended up being a house, and then the second one ended up being the church, and then the third one ended up being a schoolhouse. So in the next volume, I'll want to do the mercantile and a saloon and hotel, and maybe something about mining, because it was an old gold mining town. So that's kind of how my process went. In the very first video, I kind of go over that and show you some of my inspiration photos and things. There is, in this series, a freebies file that I will put a link down to below also, where I'm sharing a lot of the things that I've made that you can have for free if you want to do something similar. And then I also have an Etsy shop where I will also put a link to some of the background papers that I hand painted, in case you'd like to use those too. So those can be purchased on my Etsy shop, but there's lots of freebies as far as my photos and that kind of thing. Also, I put in there a prompt list is also in that freebie file. That kind of showed you my thought process and in how I was approaching a journal when I didn't really have anything in mind and I started from scratch. All I knew was that I wanted it to be vintage and grungy. So it kind of lets you see how I approached it. And you can take similar themes and use the same type of formula. So I'm just going to start going through here, and I'll point out in a lot of the previous videos, I have gone through these signatures. If there were any ideas that I had that needed kind of a how-to demo kind of thing, you'll find those in all the previous videos. So today I'm just going to kind of go through it and we'll see how far we get. So the first signature, like I said, was the house, and I decided to flank the outside. I wanted to do that whole see-through thing, so I gave it a title page. This was just a photo I took of the billboard outside the town. So because it's been printed on vellum, even though it was in color, I didn't age this one. You know, it comes out kind of blurry and weird, but I kind of like that because it's supposed to be a grungy thing anyway in a ghost town. So that was just a photo of the billboard. And then because that is on vellum, when you fold vellum in half, it's just going to crack and it would not hold into a signature. These would just come apart. So on all the vellum folios that I did, I actually glued down a piece of my rusted fabric just in the spine so that it would be sturdy enough to be sewn in. So that was my outside. And then I don't know if you know how old photo albums or scrapbooks would have maybe like just a thin tissuey piece of paper before it kind of went into your scrapbook pages. I kind of liked that idea, and I liked the color of this, so I went ahead. On some of them, I ended up using them as part of, I decorated them, but some of them, they're more just a kind of a liner page, like this one is. So that was just kind of, you know, giving you that peek through. And then this was a photo of a front of a house. It's in the freebie file, but I made a door out of that just to give myself, again, that kind of look of looking through. On the back side of this, the background paper is one of my papers that I painted. This is one of the originals, but like I said, in my Etsy shop, you can print out your own copies of all of these. I called them fresco finishes. I did them on a gel plate because I wanted that just old plastery layers of paint, peeling paint kind of look. And then I did put a little heavy acetate in here. This was probably just plastic from packaging. You know how some things will have like a box of thank you cards or something will have that heavy plastic. So that's in my doorway. Some book page there. I did the effect of some torn wallpaper using one of my fresco papers underneath and some book page, and then and actually just tearing it and peeling it from a vintage wallpaper scrap from Tim Holtz. And then one of my fresco papers, I wanted to do the whole peek through thing, so I put one of his little paper dolls there. Had made some hinges. I'm working on a digital kit for this, and I haven't finished it yet, but it's in progress, where I share things like these rusted hinges that were actually pieces of rusted metal I had that I've scanned, and I actually did these on my Cricut. So I'm going to have things like that you can just, fussy cut out for your journal if you're going to make one. This smaller door piece goes through, and it actually was, when I did my gel prints, they were like 5x7 size. I did a lot of them on old book paper and that kind of stuff. So they're kind of that smaller size. So that's why this one is little. And I like to vary, the sizes of the pages just for some interest. So that is why that one is just kind of smaller there. And then a piece of this vintage wallpaper there. I did some embossing. I had recently purchased one of the Tim Holtz Vagabond 2, I think it is. And I had never done any kind of die cutting or embossing or anything like that. So this was one of the embossing folders that I did. Now I'm also, as I pull these out, it made me think of it, I'm also putting together a kind of a happy mail kind of thing, where I did this in the last series. I did a drawing at the end of the series where anybody who had commented on any of the videos would be entered in the drawing, and then I sent them like extra things and parts and pieces from my project so that they would have a lot of the little embellishments and that sort of thing. These are from a little paper pack that I don't have here because I'm in my other studio, but stuff like this will go in there, not cut out already, but the little actual papers. So this was just a little scrap pad just from little bits and pieces of music page and wallpaper, things from this project. So I put that in there. The cover of it in this little telegram was a paper already that I would include in that little fun happy mail. So this is just like a little telegram envelope thing. Just things you would maybe find laying around in this old house. Now this is one of the photos that I had taken of one of the rooms in Bodie. So I've just printed it on vellum and aged it after running it through that app, that antique photo app, and then just done some stitching and that sort of thing. So it's really just one of those, little flap look through thing. And then this was done on some music paper. This would be in my DigiKit also. I did some layering of different scans of music and things, old postcards, different things that I did, and then printed this on vellum for another pocket that you can see through. And that again will be in that kit. These two cards are just plain, but they were also made from that same paper pack as the other little telegram. So again, those kind of things would be in that kit also, in the happy mail. And then I've shown this in previous ones, just how to make your own line stamp for vintage lined paper. And then again, this is just one of the Tim Holtz cards for who might have been the children that lived in that house. And then this was a fun one, and there's an episode about how I did this. I actually took photos of my antique bottle collection that I have, and I used some of them to make a pocket. And what I did to do these, I printed them onto the vellum, and because they were glasses, I had run them through Photoshop, I think, or Adobe Illustrator, and changed the opacity so they were even more see-through, and then printed them on vellum, but then also laminated them so that they would be sturdier for a pocket. That kind of stuff will also be in the happy mail. This one I decided to do a larger bottle, and then same process of printing it onto vellum. I cut these out with my Cricut. You could hand cut, fussy cut them out. But did that as the cover for this little swivel kind of notepad. So there's a how-to on this. This is just some paper, different papers that I had coffee stained, different lined papers for the inside papers. And then these little labels, I think I got these off of the Graphics Fairy, maybe, something like that. And then just did them also onto a vellum sticker paper, I think is how I did these. So, you know, just for some authentic looking labels. And then this is just a little card from a Tim Holtz pack with some hand stitching. Used some of the scrim. I thought that looked like bandaging. Some, you know, vintage prescription, that kind of stuff. And then I used quotes throughout also. These, because this kind of part of the signature is for the doctor. I'm thinking maybe the doctor lived in that house. The photo that I have of the actual house that the front door came from, the front of the house was large picture windows, like a storefront almost. And they had some wooden shelving that was all dilapidated and lots of bottles on them. So I kind of thought, well, maybe that's where the pharmacist lived or the doctor lived, or I don't know. But it kind of made me want to do this whole bottle thing. So some of the quotes in here then in this part are physician quotes or medicine quotes, that kind of thing. So I also will have in the digital kit a page with different fonts and different things of the quotes that I've used in this one. And I did them in such a way that they can be just printed on one sheet. They're kind of spaced far apart so that you can tear or cut them out and use them in your journal in maybe different sizes than I did. So those will be there also. And then because I kind of envisioned this as maybe the doctor, I had done a fold out. This folio was done with some of my coffee stained paper, lined paper. So I just did a kind of a little flap and then made another, you know, plain card. This is just out of some Tim Holtz paper pack. And then another one of his cards. So I kind of just thought he could be the doctor, who knows. And just kind of a little pocket, vellum pocket there. So then where this flap opens up on the other side here, I had wanted, partly because I sew, but in all the rooms in the house, you would see often a sewing machine, and it might be in the bedroom, it might be in the kitchen area. Different houses had them in different places, but this is a photo that I had taken, and there is very faintly, you can see a sewing machine in here. And in this one, the mirror was missing out of this little dresser. So I went ahead and just cut that with one of my dies to make it an opening that was straight and kind of had that mirror shape. Again, so that you can see the seeing through kind of thing. So this was from a paper pack. I don't remember which one now. It's not a Tim Holtz ones, I know that. I just can't, I think it's like, I can't remember the name. It's like 49 Market or something like that. I've listed, when I've done flip throughs of these individual signatures, I've shown this paper pack. So I'll try to find it again when I get back to the other studio and list that, because it has some really pretty kind of vintagey. I just thought this kind of had the outline of like a mirror. So that's just a plain card in there. And then because I wanted to do a lot of sewing referenced things, this is kind of the part that I haven't shown in previous flip throughs because I didn't have it finished. But this is just a piece of Tim Holtz paper that just is sewing references. So I just kind of thought that was a cute little bookmark. It was a scrap I had left over from cutting off something else, and then just a little rusty paper clip there. So I've left a lot of this kind of simple and that can take further decoration or journaling, because I've had a couple people ask if I was going to sell this. So I may at some point, I'm not sure when I can part with it. My husband saw it and he said, oh, you put so much into it, you should keep it. So I don't know. We'll see. I did make a pocket. This was, I think this was from the Graphics Fairy, a photo of a sewing machine that I found online. and then I printed it. It's on vellum. You can't really see it in this photo, but it's printed on vellum, and then I've sewn that. I think I ran it through my sticker maker, my Xyron. I've shown that before, just to get it on here, and then just sewn around it with a little zigzag, just to make it a sturdier pocket. And it was done onto a piece of my fresco finish that I was playing around with, using kind of a mask kind of stencil imprinted in my gel plate that had these gears. And I think this is a Tim Holtz one. And then again, these were just some little cards with sewing references that came out of some Tim Holtz ephemera little packs. That, and then this I had shown in a previous video. This pocket, I actually did my own embossing from an actual rusty handle that I had. So I did it using watercolor paper. If you spritz the watercolor paper so it's, you know, pretty wet, you can just kind of form that paper, kind of gets a little pulpy feeling, and you can kind of press that into something that's three-dimensional and get that imprint. So I kind of just did it with my fingers and wetted it, spritzed it, and would kind of just maneuver it in there and then let it dry. And then you can do all of your, these are all just done with distress inks and sprays and some of the mica ones, so it has that kind of little metallic look to it. So that was kind of fun, and I had one over that in a previous video. Again, when your papers, my papers were small because I had done them on a 5x7 jelly plate, and I wanted to use 2 of them to make a folio. And because it was, you know, there were smaller papers, I went ahead again and used some of my rusted fabric and just sewed it, hand stitched it to each, I glued it down also, but then I just did a running stitch. And then this is my actual sewing it into this book. I used some of the same kitchen string that I had used, that I rusted. I just used 1 ply of that. You can take a kitchen string apart in plies, just like embroidery thread. So I took it down to 1, which is a lot thicker than an embroidery thread, and used that to stitch the signatures into my book. So this is just another little from Tim Holtz paper pack, and some vintage lace that I've tea stained for a card. And then this one I had not done anything on, I think. Excuse my voice here. I need to take a drink. So this pocket I had shown before. I printed this photo that has some striped floral wallpaper on it. And again, there was a mirror on the wall, but it was hung crooked. And so I went ahead and cut that out with a die and made it look like a straight mirror on the wall. And then I mentioned this before, but I liked how this little dresser has a similar kind of handle to this, and it's missing one. So I thought that was fun to put those side by side, because that could have been the handle that's missing from here. So this was just kind of a corner pocket that I did. And then I just added again some, made a little journaling card, just a small one. And then this is one of those metal, helps you to thread your needle. There's usually a little wire thing here. I have a few of these that were just given to me in like a Happy Meal kind of thing. So I thought that was cute to kind of just use that as a little pull. And then this one I went ahead and took some of the Tim Holtz papers that were sewing related and just made a little pocket with it. And this was a little, it's from one of his ephemera packs that's the top of a spool of thread. And then it kind of gave me the idea of, I think this little button card was also ephemera in there. So I just made kind of like a little tag out of that. And then this whole gave me the idea of doing, you know, like little needle keeps, needle packs come in like maybe a little booklet. And I had one that was really falling apart, and I've scanned parts of it. I don't know that I used it in this journal at all. If I may find it if I come to it, but I don't remember if I used it at all. But I am including some of the scans of vintage items that I had collected. So those will be in the digital kit too, just you know, even things that I didn't end up using. But this is just some little scraps of different coffee dyed papers that I had left. And then I went ahead and just stuck a vintage needle in there too, just for fun. So that's kind of another little sewing related page. And I liked this because this was striped in the photo. You know, I kind of repeated the stripes like you're looking through again there. And then this one I really didn't do too much to, but this was again just one of my papers that I had made. And I don't think this one ended up, some of these I used them in my journal before I thought of that it would be a good idea to scan them in and offer them for sale. So I don't think this one is in the kit on Etsy, but that's one you can use different stamps and things on your gel plate just to give you different textures also. And then this I will include in the digital kit. These are just some vintage pattern pieces that I just printed and shrunk down and put on to, this is just on some just cardstock. This one I actually, because I'm feeling the texture now, this one's just done on regular paper, and because it's just my inkjet printer, when you spritz it to make it look aged, you'll get the ink to run and things, which I really liked because I want water stained things in here. So that's kind of how I did that one. And then this one printed a little crisper. And if you've ever tried to print on tissue paper, I need a new printer because I know that I've watched videos. Let's see, who was it? I want to say it was, I follow Sean, gosh, I can't think of her last name right now, Sean Petit for a mixed media art. And she had mentioned she prints on tissue and just cheap paper and things like that all the time and never has trouble with ink running. So, or blur, you know, bad copies. I have a problem with my printer, so I need to get a new printer, and I think she uses an HP, so I need to maybe message her to see which one, because I have a problem with printing on tissue. So what I decided to try was I printed on just regular cardstock, my pattern, but I wanted it to kind of feel like I had done it on tissue because it was a pattern. So I just took tissue paper and glued it down on top of my cardstock after. So it kind of feels like it was done on tissue. You still see the pattern through it. That it kind of was another way of just me playing around and trying to do something different. So it gave me kind of a neat tissue-y texture, but makes it sturdier for a journal card. And then this side, I did use an actual piece of a pattern that I had and made a pocket out of that. I think I glued it to a piece of vellum just to get it to be firmer but still see-through. You know, this whole journal, I mean, really kind of everything I do, I keep wanting to just try new things, just to get different textures and opacities and that sort of thing. And then this is actually a real card, which I'll scan maybe and put in my digital kit, but it's just, you know, a piece I stuck in there. And then this again is something from a paper pack, just a scrap that I had, but it's like a JP Coats thread thing. So just another little couple of things in there. And then this one I had shown before. I actually took one of my photos, which was kind of an all-purpose room. There's a fireplace, like a kitchen table, a sewing machine, a place for kids to do schoolwork, and all kinds of stuff going on in this room. So I went ahead because I wanted to, you know, the vintage grunge thing, and it was had kind of gone in this direction. I just decided to tear the picture in half and then stagger it for my pocket just to be a little bit different. And then this is a flip with some vintage crocheted lace on it. So, and then this was just a scrap again from a Tim Holtz paper pack and just some scraps to do a little notepad, you know, because this is kind of my little all-purpose room here. And then again, this was these lines were made from the stamp. I bought some lino blocks and tools a while back, and there's a video where I showed that I bought that and played around with making my own line stamp. And then again, this was another one I've shown before, another photo. I liked how the wallpaper in this room was literally 8.5 by 11, you know, pieces of paper tacked to the wall, and then the clothes were hanging up from really high, a really tattery mattress. So I used some of my fabric, rusted fabric that kind of had that old moldy tattery mattress kind of a look that kind of just continued it to make a nice bigger flap here. And then I had shown this before. I'd taken an envelope that I had and just used it as a pattern, which I'll include in my kit, I think, just to make kind of an envelope that looked like it had been opened and closed, you know, where this letter had been read a lot. And then the letter, I didn't have an old letter, so I just went online and found an old letter and just printed it on paper and just kind of tried to make it look a little worn, like it had been read a lot. I don't know how I had it folded kind of weird. Anyway, that's something that you might find under your pillow. And then I had shown this. This is a photo. I did not take this, obviously. This is really an old photo from that time period. And I was playing around with printing photos onto fabric. So this is in a previous video, but I just made a little pocket and then used some vintage buttons and things. And then this is a recipe for lavender water. I went online and just looked for some old recipes that were in handwriting that I could maybe use in my journal. So that one was for lavender water. And then this was the pocket I made, which this will be included in my digital kit. This is, I have an actual old rusty galvanized sink kind of, wash basin kind of thing in my garden, my greenhouse. And so I took a picture of the label on it that's on the actual metal and turned that into a little pocket. So I'll include that too. And then this is a piece I had played around learning Adobe Illustrator, how to layer different things that I had taken pictures of. So this paper was made with, I had taken a picture of a piece of old wood and then a picture of some floral paper that was the inside of an old book, and just kind of layered those. But then this is actually from lace that I used on my jelly plate to get that stripe across the top. And the reason I did this whole look was in this kitchen, the photo is really, because it's on vellum, it's hard to see, but the whole top of this wainscoting was like tin ceiling, white tin ceiling, but it was brought down the wall. And so I kind of thought this kind of reminded me of that kind of, the kind of look of old tin ceiling. And then this was the kitchen. I didn't really have what I wanted to do with this picture, so I just kind of stuck it in here and then did a couple of more handwritten recipes into just little journal cards for there. And then, you know, behind the house might be a barn, and I did this really early on. I did make it a pocket. I didn't put anything in there. I guess I need to do that. But it's just a little kind of mixed media thing that I did with some of the rusted fabric, an actual twig from a nest I had, and just some old rusty parts that I had used for rusting fabric, and some rusty screen, different things, and did some little slow stitching on it. And this was kind of fun to make, just, you know, a little quote and stuff. So that I did really early on, but it's at the back of my house one. And then there was an old truck, a photo of an old truck that I just did. And this was one of those really kind of happy accident things. I found, this is in a previous video, but one of my pieces of fabric that I rusted had this look of these mountains. So this whole look, there were mountains in this photo, but they were very faded out. And when I put that piece of fabric behind it, just the way the fabric had rusted, it kind of highlighted those mountains again. So that was a lot of fun. I show this, I think, in the previous video without them being attached to each other, so you can really see how they complemented each other. So that was just kind of a little fun thing. I did that on that tissue paper, and then my vellum. And then you see through to the next one, which is the church. So in the church, I had a vintage, an antique hymn book that I have. So I used some of that, and I've gone through this videos how I did all this stuff. But anyway, I took a picture of the church and part of the music paper, made a pocket out of that. And then on this card, it's a photo, and I've shown how I take these photos and not only make them look older than this was an actual old photo off of the internet, but of church ladies, but how to give them kind of that texture too. So there's a video previously about that. So I just did a little card, and I wanted it backwards so that when I put it in here, you can kind of see them through here again. So that whole kind of seeing through thing. And then this was the cover of the hymn book and some music paper inside. So I'll be sharing all this kind of stuff will be part of that kit. And then again, it's a little window thing. This was on the inside of my childhood Bible, daily scripture readings. I changed, this was a freebie bulletin, church bulletin cover you could get, but then I actually went through my Photoshop and did this, took out what they had and redid this text because I could not get it to print clearly from the online photo kind of thing. And then this background paper is actually, from a Bible text. And so I've kind of, put all those things together, and those will be available. This was the real fun one. I found some stained glass windows online photo and turned it into, I wanted it to be kind of the whole see-through thing in a church. So I found this photo of church people, and it worked out that when I cut it out, it fit perfectly to turn that into a pocket so that you see them through the window. So one of my favorite things in this book. And then I just put a little quote here. That quote again will be on the quotes sheet. And then this is like the back of a pew. I used my Tim Holtz wood grain 3D folder to get the wood grain. And then in a church, in the back of the pew, there's usually a pocket where the hymn book would go. So I actually made a little, from my hymn book cover that I have, I made a little notepad. Put some music paper in there too, of course. And that's my little hymn book. And then one other thing that you might find in there are prayer request forms. So I actually created this one myself. So it will be available too. And just made it a little journal card for another thing to go in the pocket. Another thing you would find is a church collection envelope. Again, I made this one, so that will be available, the pattern for this, for a little church collection. And then this is actually old music paper for this one. And I didn't cut it at all. I just folded it so that it would be pockets and flips and kind of thing. So I liked that it was, I love to tell the story. And then Hanky was the whoever wrote this, I guess. Or no, that would be whoever wrote it. I'm not sure. Maybe that's like another, I don't know why that says Hanky. Maybe you need a hanky if you sing this. I don't know. But it's funny because my best friend's cat's name's Hanky. And the other thing you do in a church is have weddings, and sometimes you need a hanky for that, right? So I took some, I wanted this to be kind of the wedding thing. So I actually had some lace left over from some decorations and things I did for my niece's wedding. So I used that, tea stained it, and then I found an old wedding photo and made a journal card out of that. So you can, again, see through, sort of. So just more blank pages, another little couple of pockets for things. Then I just sewed this on just to have it offset, just for another fun place to write. And then the other thing is a Bible would be in the church. So this is actually my husband's Bible. I took the cover of his and made the cover for a notepad. And then in his, he had a bookmark of the 10 Commandments. So I retyped the whole thing because I wanted a different font. I needed it scaled size-wise for my pocket, my little tuck here. So I'll have that available also. And then I just sewed in a little piece of scrim and some red fabric, or paper. So that's just another little pocket. And then the other thing that we used to do, I went to, in my childhood, the first church we ever went to was very country church. And we did not have our own baptismal. So we actually went to the river, and that's what they used to do. They would go down to the river and baptize. So I found a picture of an old river baptism online. So I did it again with my same, you know, putting it on vellum and putting it on to my my rusted fabric, because the thing about that I just always remember is, you know, you're fully clothed when you do that, and the minister would put a handkerchief, a folded handkerchief over your face, you know, before he dunked you, to just so you didn't have water going up your nose and everywhere. Anyway, too much information probably, but there you go. One thing you got when you were baptized was a certificate of baptism. So I found this old one from the 1800s, 1850 it says. So I just, you know, printed it out and made it into a card. And then the thing you did afterwards, and I just love this photo, I found this one online also, is you would have like a potluck picnic afterwards. And I just love this because they took the church pews out of the church. This is all outside. And they put them, you know, seats together because they didn't have a table. So it made, you know, you can see the curve in the seats. So they would just lay out their tablecloth and whatever they brought, and you just go down the line and get your food. So anyway, I just thought that was fun. And then this picture was one that I had taken, but it actually was in the schoolhouse. So I thought this would be a good transition from church to school, because one thing that we did was in the summer or over a holiday, you would have vacation Bible school. So you went there for a week and you did craft projects and, you know, Bible stories and all that kind of fun stuff. But it was always a fun week. It was, you were out of school, but your parents still needed to work. So they sent you to vacation Bible school just to keep out of their hair. So a little pocket, then again with scrim and that photo. It's layered onto some of my fresco finishes. And then you would get a badge. And I used the year 1894 because this whole town and everything is kind of started in the 1800s. And this was the first year, I looked it up, when Vacation Bible School was invented. So I used that as my year and just kind of made a little medallion tag thing for that. That again will probably be in the kit. And then, so this is kind of going towards my school. This is a picture of the back of the church. I had the front of the church in the front. So this is the back of the church, another pocket made again. This one feels like I printed it onto something heavier. So I don't remember now, but I've probably covered it in a previous video. And then, again, just some music paper out of that book that I have, Scatter Seeds of Kindness, you know, because after church, you're supposed to take that with you to the rest of your week, right? So this is just a little card that is a pre-made card that I had. So just kind of like that. It looked like a little sunshine kind of thing. And then another tissue to the school. So the school one, is a picture of this outside of the schoolhouse. Again, I just kind of did it as a little pocket, again with the vellum with the reinforced spine. And then this one says, a school is 4 walls with tomorrow inside, a little journal card. And then, you know, the first thing we always did, this was actually in my hymn book that I have. The last song in the book was America the Beautiful. You know, in school you would say the Pledge of Allegiance and do the song and all that. So I've just kind of made a little pocket by printing part of it on vellum, tearing that out and putting it on another actual one done on cardstock to make that. And then this is just a Tim Holtz paper doll where she was holding the flag, some 4th of July scrapbook paper, cardstock, for just another little card in there. that. Just the back side of that, again, you see the quote through. And then this, Tim Holtz has some really good paper packs that have school and that kind of stuff. So it's been really handy with this journal. I didn't have to create everything from scratch. So this is just one of his papers, a photo of some school children with their teacher done on vellum again, so you see through it. Just kind of another piece from Tim Holtz that you could see through the little book. Then this one I made into a little pocket with another little quote. Just as another little card, a little ephemera. And then Jack and Jill, you always learn the little Jack and Jill thing. So I've done it also in the quotes page in this larger font and smaller, so that you can tear it up like I did if you want. This is Tim Holtz again, something from another paper pack. And then, you know, she was the same woman that's married to the doctor maybe, but she's the school teacher. So I had done the little, you know, student notebook with some school, I call this kind of school learning to write paper that I had coffee stained. It's a little booklet. And then, you know, back then they used slate boards for at their desk, you know, to do their practice and stuff. So did that there, little pocket. And again, this could be like the chalkboard, but I did it as a see-through again to a chalkboard that's on the next page. This also will be available. I took a bunch of old rulers and yardsticks that I had and made my own paper, not realizing that Tim Holtz, I think, in another paper pack I found, there is something like this in the world. I figured there probably was. I just didn't know I had it. So I had made my own, which is kind of a good feeling. You know, I've been trying to learn Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop. I'd never used them before this project. So it's been fun to kind of try to learn how to use some of that stuff. And then just another little, again, on that school paper. And then this is just like the inside of a schoolroom photo. And then this is from a Tim Holtz thing. And again, my paper, and just making a little card. And then a couple of rusty paper clips are holding in some more little cards. Decorated them a little bit, nothing too much for here. And then this is just a little flip again with another little quote. Tried to leave, you know, a good fair amount of writing space and room to do more decorating. Again, the inside of the school classroom done on vellum. This one I do have as just like a little flip with some lines, so you can write on this one too. And then just some more cards. And then towards the end of school, more quotes, lots of quotes in the school one. One of my fresco papers, this one was done on kind of, what do they call it? It's not construction paper, manila paper. That, you know, you used to get, I don't know if they use it still, but when I was in school, they used manila paper for you to draw on, do art things on. So I had done some of my fresco finishes on that kind of paper too, just because I go through the, when you go to like the office supply store, there's always a section for school teachers. I like to go there and find different papers because, you know, they're not things we think about all the time. So I had went through there just to kind of get some ideas of different papers and things to use. This is from Tim Holtz. It's just already done a little school, a school group there. And then you would get certificates of achievement for different things, you know. This is just, I did not make this one. This one was, there's a little notepad. I don't have it here. It's in the other studio, but there's a little notepad that has a whole bunch of these just tear off. They're just with a gummed top, you know, just like a little notepad. But each page is some sort of ephemera for journaling. So I just kind of grabbed a piece of that for there. And then you would get, you know, a certificate of attendance if you had perfect attendance. So I use, that's from Tim Holtz. Just use that as a pocket with another couple of, this is just some washi tape on here for another couple of little cards. And then I had these, I used to, when I did decorating, I had quite a library of decorating books, and I would let my clients borrow them to kind of get a feel for things that they liked or didn't like, styles when they didn't really know what their style was. So I did that a lot, and I had a bunch of these library pockets left over. So I just made a pocket. I just attached it to another piece. I made a pocket on a card there. And that's it. So that was the end of my school. So I think, you know, like I said, I had been away from this for a couple of months. And life was just a crazy summer for us. And it's still going. With all the fires and things, but I'm hoping, I keep saying this for, I don't know, 2-3 months now, that things will settle down a little bit. In the meantime, I have been working on learning some new things, mixed media, art, you know, kind of things that I've wanted to do. So this has been a good opportunity for me to do that. But I wanted to get this finished and show you the final of this, and then I will work on the next one. Like I said, in the meantime, I have been playing around when I have time. It's just been in little bits and pieces, but this is my very first canvas, mixed media canvas that I've done on an actual canvas. So it was a lot of fun. Took me a couple of days. I'm not as fast as Sean Petit and have like zero experience. So it's been fun to play on this, and I want to do some more of this kind of thing too. So, you know, I have been working on things. I just haven't been able to do videos. So I'm hoping that changes here soon, and that I can share the next one with you. I may try to do little ones in between that are just kind of different things, whatever I happen to be working on. I'm not really confident enough yet to do any of this kind of stuff, but here or there I might do. I'm also learning how to do some zentangle. I've been playing around with that just because it's something I can do, you know, in little bits of time in the evening, and it's been really good to kind of calm things around, you know, when they're crazy, and learning something new at the same time. And practice on kind of my drawing, because, you know, I've always said I was not that kind of artist. And so it's really been kind of good for me to learn a little bit more and play around. And I'm thinking, I did bring this with me. I'm thinking that it would be a fun place to do some of the zentangling on my gel prints. There is... what is it called? Ink. Can't think of her name right now. Another person that I follow, I'll put her link down below, that does the zentangle, and she's done them on gel prints, and they look really neat. So I thought this would be kind of a fun art journal zentangle kind of thing to do when I just feel like I need to do some kind of art and I don't have a lot of time. So I may share, you know, if I do some of those, I may share how that goes. And then I also I want to make more of these. I just really think they're cute. And then these would just be fun to send out. And, you know, when you're traveling and you just want to have a little someplace to journal, doodle, whatever. So I will hopefully be sharing some fun things as I can. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.